Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Song Radio Show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones, and tonight I'm going to get into a serious discussion. And this topic is, why is the American education system so bad? Why is the American education system so bad? Now, from my humble opinion, it's been deteriorating ever since the 1960s. Now, the issue that I have with the American education system, and this goes much further than K through 12, it also goes into college. Now, if you look at what's going on in your K through 12, I mean, they're teaching all of this woke stuff, this transgenderism. There were videos in the past where you had a transgendered person, and these transgenders are really lazy. I mean, they call themselves women, but they don't even take the time to make themselves look like women. But they allow the kids to sit on their laps, and many of them are perverted, but they're allowing them in this education system. Wokeness has killed a lot of people. And if you look at the amount of kids, and I've seen a number of them, they're dumb as hell. And something else too. A lot of these schools here in America are teaching a communist manifesto. Now, what is really happening is if you look at the teachers, now you look at Nazi Germany. Now they had National Socialism over there. They exterminated a lot of the Jewish people. But do you believe that all of those Jewish people who did survive the Holocaust, and even after the demise of Hitler, do you believe that everybody in Hitler's regime perished? No. What they did is they came to the United States. And what they brought to the United States was communism. Now, many of us fought against communism. I mean, if you look at the Democratic Party now, and the Democratic Party is a product of the school system. You have all of these individuals who have no idea. You have no idea. You have no idea of the government. And these individuals are running in government. Now, it's not just the millennials, the Gen Alphas, and the Gen Zs. You still have some baby boomers and even some Gen Xers. Because I'm part of Gen X. And what I have always been taught was to go to college and get a degree. The problem is when you do that, there are a bunch of individuals who have degrees. And when you look at the population, a number of individuals still have no job because society is basically populated with degrees. And there are people who have high caliber engineering degrees and don't have jobs. When you saturate the market with degrees, you make no progress. The bottom line is back in the days when we had home ec and we had industrial arts, there was something also when you got in high school called VOTEC. You see, everybody didn't have to go to college. Everybody had some type of skill. Now, when the 80s and 90s came, I mean, the 80s was where you had the crack epidemic, and the 90s is where you had all these talk shows, go to college. And nowadays, you have individuals. Let's look at the University of Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines. Do you know that to make people feel good, they want to get rid of grades? That is asinine. In Baltimore, and I'm originally from that neck of the woods, a student with a 0.13. Now, this has been discussed before, but a 0.13 GPA. That was the top 50% in his class, of 0.13. Now, in order to graduate from college, you have to have at least a 2.0. And what's going on with college now is you have a number of individuals now, they're not really writing. You have people who can't write cursive. I grew up, I had to learn cursive. I had to learn how to do square roots by hand. Yes, there were calculators, but now you have everything done on social media. It's done for you. Students don't have to do anything, and the teachers are poor because the teachers are basically babysitters. The students have no respect for the teachers. Now, I will give a shout out to my alma mater, Purdue University, because at Purdue University, you can't graduate unless you take civics. Now, I'm going to show you right now as I share my screen with you about Purdue University. Now, let me go back and let's do a little screen share and let's drop this for a moment. Let's drop that. Let's go back to Purdue University here. And I'm going to show you right now, as I go back to Zoom here, Purdue University's civics. It's called the civics literacy. Now, at Purdue University, the civics literacy program is a graduation requirement for all students beginning with the fall of 2021. Now, some people were grandfathered in. Now, once the activities are completed, a notation of a civics literacy proficiency will be placed on a student's transcript. Now, when I went to Purdue, I didn't have to do it because I was at Purdue before 2020. Now, you can do it, but I already took a U.S. history class, a government class, but I believe that we need to bring good old fashioned civics back to reality here. Now, let me go ahead and get on why the government, or because I call it government schools. And as you know, students are definitely paying the price. Well, math and reading scores for 13-year-olds have hit their lowest scores in decades. When the recent NAEP long-term trend results for the 13-year-olds were published, the reactions were predictable. Short places in the national press and apologetics in education blogs. COVID-19, we were told, was continuing to cast its long shadow. Now, despite nearly $200 billion in emergency federal spending on K through 12 schooling, students are doing worse than a decade ago. Now, you do have some areas that are doing pretty good. So if you are in particularly an urban school system, you might want to get your kids out of an urban school system and homeschool. Now, right now, yeah, Lower performing students are today less capable of doing math than they were 35 years ago. A number of individuals can't even write cursive. Now, what is striking, and it has been pervasive wariness evident in the commentaries on the results of the National Assessment of Education Progress. That's the NAEP, the National Assessment of Education Progress. The news was heralded as alarming, terrifying, and tragic. Of course it was. Now, as for the respondents at the end of the piece on the results, the AEI's Nat Malkus basically concluded that nothing less than the Herculean efforts will make up such pitfalls. Well, I don't even believe that either. My opinion is you have too many students stuck on social media. Now, I've always had a problem, even with college curriculums, that they want us to take a race class. They want, why take a race class? You don't need a race class. Why have all these classes in women's studies, African American studies? You can actually learn those classes free. Now, in high school, they should be teaching civics, US history. Now, if I were to make a curriculum for this education, I would have something like uh, finances, government. I mean, we talk about the illegals. We want the illegals to come in this country, or we want migrants to come in this country and learn the American way. I agree with that. However, we have people here in America who don't know anything about the American way. They don't like capitalism. And the fact of the matter is, the media doesn't give a damn about anything but hating Donald Trump. And he's trying to do everything to create something, right? But you just have a lot of dummies here in America, and they're running for office. And most of them are women. Now, I'm not saying all women are dumb, but you have many of them who are for government and government only. When I hear somebody tell me they hate capitalism, many people don't even know what capitalism is. Many people don't even know what communism is. But when you go to college, students come back, they have been so indoctrinated by their college professors. I mean, college professors are basically teaching their children how to hate their parents. There is no continuity, professionalism in college. The professors are getting paid some good money. But the professors themselves, I know when I went to Temple University, when I got my first degree, now I was in STEM, so I didn't have as many problems where, let's say, if you go over to the humanities division or the English division, that's where you have most of the journalism division. Well, all of your people who are working at CNN, MS Now, they're products of a system that's a failed system. I mean, you have individuals giving an opinion, and I'll tell you about tariffs. Many of them don't even know what a tariff is. And the problem with the school system, particularly college, okay, the school system, regular school system, you have a big union called the NEA. It's a National Education Association, very powerful. They donate a lot of money to the Democratic Party. Well, the teachers aren't as good, but the teachers can't be good when you have unruly students. Furthermore, when you have a lack of family structure, particularly in the African American neighborhoods, where the mothers just let their children run amok. And then when you try to discipline a child in school, the mother's coming up, putting her 2 cents in. Why? Because she doesn't have control of her own home either. She's out there for the streets, throwing herself around, doesn't know anything because she never learned anything because the mother came from a poor environment. And I always utilize the United Negro College Fund's saying, a mind is a terrible thing to waste. Well, a lot of these children are already gone based on the environment that they come from. But let me switch that a little bit. You have students who come from good environments and they don't know anything either. If you look at the students today, and I'm going to even go back to the 90s and the 80s. Now, as a Gen Xer in the 80s, and I'm going to say that is where the going to college started. Now, when I graduated in 1983, I didn't want to go to college. But see, my mom wanted me to go to college. And in a certain way, I became an engineer, but did I want to be an engineer at first? No, I like food. I wanted to work in the hospitality industry. And if I'd worked in that industry, I may have made more money and been able to contribute to that industry a lot differently than I can as an engineer. But being an engineer is good, STEM is good. However, you have a number of parents also, and they make the education system bad because they're telling their kids what they should do in college. Oh, you should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. Well, some kids don't want to go to school to be doctors and lawyers. Some kids don't want to go to college, period. In fact, I would tell you right now, if you have a child in college right now, I would be looking at the professors. I'd come in and walk around the campus, sneak in one of the classes to see what the professors are teaching. And you're going to be surprised when you hear the Marxism and the communism come out of the professors' mouths. Now, a lot of these children, you know what they are? Social justice warriors. They think they can save the world. They're no different than the tree huggers of the 1960s. In fact, if you really look at the 1960s, there was a lot of social change. But guess why there was social change? You had a number of individuals, they didn't want to go and fight over in Vietnam, which I understand that. But they didn't produce anything but hot air and rhetoric and all the academia, like Cloward and Pivens. Cloward and Pivens had this grand old idea of collapsing the system and starting something new. See, these individuals who went to college, and these were the baby boomers in the 60s. Baby boomers and some of your silent generation people, they had so much time on their hands. Why? Because they didn't go to the military. They didn't do anything with their lives. But the people that came back, you had these college educated people spitting on them, calling them murderers. But there's no more of a murderer than individuals who believed in Margaret Sanger. Margaret Sanger had a number of Planned Parenthoods in urban areas. But see, you wouldn't know that if I didn't tell you because I studied it. And I'm not an expert. But what I can tell you is this, your education system, it's not teaching you anything. It's teaching all this wokeism. It's meaningless. Not teaching you skills that you can use. And in my opinion, instead of making us take some race class, we need to take a financial class. That will help you. Again, a number of kids going to college, many of them, they don't have the aptitude to go to college, but they just slid their way because the teachers didn't care or the teachers couldn't control the class. So they just let a lot of them slip through the cracks. Now, going back to why the American system is a mess. Well, you know, I look at some of these articles now that talk about school vouchers. Well, the Democrats don't want school vouchers. Why don't the Democrats want school vouchers? Because the Democrats are for putting everybody in government schools. See, what you have are a number of individuals who come out of school, join the Democratic Party, they're looking for something free. Now, if you look at and shout out to Florida, because their governor is taking all that communist manifesto right out of the public schools in Florida. Now, that is something very good. It's just like Purdue University. And then some of these students, they're on Ritalin, particularly the boys. They don't need to be on Ritalin. It's because the boys can't sit long enough to learn anything. Because the number of them don't want to be there. Now, teacher preparation, in my humble opinion, when it comes to any school, and this is college too, it relies too much on the Facebook. I always believe in what I call clinical practice. If I gave a test and I put a problem on a board, how are you going to solve the problem? Textbooks, in my humble opinion, somebody writes the textbooks. A textbook can be used as a guide, but it shouldn't be the end all be all. And tests, especially in reading, in my humble opinion, are poorly designed. And when it comes to public schools, not everybody can send their children to private schools. So if you look at the parents, too many parents are basically stuck sending their kids to underperforming schools. Now, I know we talk about health care, no, we talk about other issues, but if your education system is out of whack, a lot of other areas are going to be out of whack too. Now, among uniquely, well, almost uniquely among advanced industrial nations, the US school systems disconnect testing from student incentives. State tests are used to evaluate schools, but are often irrelevant to students. I always thought that the ACT and the SCT and the MCAT, they're all irrelevant. Now, colleges become an extortion and an indoctrination camp. They want your money. But you have so many of these standardized tests. I remember in every odd grade coming up, we would have to take an Iowa test. And then they went to the California test. Now, state tests are used to evaluate schools, but again, I just said this, they're basically irrelevant to students. So only 11 states still require high school exams for graduation. And there are often alternative pathways for those who fail the test. Now, what we don't do is link the results of high school exit exams to college admissions. Instead, we use grade point averages and tests like the ACT and SAT, which are disconnected from course curricula. And speaking of GPA, I'm just going to say this: a number of the grades in college and in high school, they're inflated. They are inflated. We simply call success what was once failure. So, in other words, they're giving you false promises. That's what hope is. And when you have disappointing schools, because I see a number of man on the street videos, you have individuals who don't know the branches of government, the three branches of government. You have individuals who don't even know the capital of their state. You have individuals who don't understand finances. They don't even know the history. And see, when you have the Communist Manifesto and you have wokeism that's being taught in these schools, then what you're getting is a bunch of students who hate this country. And it's these foreigners who came over here from other countries like Germany, like Africa, and they bring their communist Marxism and they're teaching Americas. And America is really destroying itself from the inside. Now, when you turn away from economics, and basically economics is a propelled, it's rocket propelled by a genuine problem. American teenagers, what they do today is just basically stare at social media on the screen almost 9 hours a day. They love taking selfies, and with one being surging loneliness and depression. And many American school systems have reacted by putting social and emotional learning at the top of their agenda. Now, there's also bullying. You have a number of school shootings. So you have a lot that is going in. So the lack of security in schools. You have children on Ritalin who shouldn't be on Ritalin. They're being told they're crazy when they're not crazy. The bottom line is schools really aren't preparing students to get out in the real world. This is why you have more and more, and of course, the economy. A lot of schools aren't teaching anything about economics. They're just teaching students how to hate America. And today, individuals don't even have any type of structure. They don't like structure. They don't like authority. This is why you hear a number of them come up here on the internet and say what they want to say, and they get money for it, even if it's absolute BS. The bottom line is this: you look at how much money the education system is spending per student a year, and the students aren't learning. I mean, you can give them all the equipment, but overall, I'm just going to say this too. You look at AI, students aren't writing papers. I mean, they might write a few words and go into chat GTP, or they might go into Grok or Claude or Perplexity, and it'll do the paper for them. And a lot of students today, because they don't actually get out and talk to actual human beings, they hide behind that screen. So they're socially awkward. They don't understand teamwork in the workplace. And well, I will tell you too, the workplace that we have today, the management, it's a product of your school system too. Now, I'll mention education because education is one of the five power conferences that I've mentioned. Now, if you don't know what they are, there's education, there's media, jobs, government, and religion. And and they're all driven by culture who doesn't like this country. And then we had to deal with this in the Joe Biden years. And when you look at what's going on now, the left in this country, they're the most violent people. Why? Because many of them don't have half a brain. They want everything their way. They want everybody to live the way they want us to live. And it is funny how they would call Trump a fascist when they're utilizing that very same rhetoric to try to get everybody to listen to them. And that's propaganda. And that's what college teaches as well, propaganda. And if you do not understand what propaganda is, and shout out to Professor Nez, he will tell you about propaganda. But again, your education system, we spend too much on pupils who don't want to learn anything. They don't care about learning anything. Many of them don't even want to work today. They want something for free. So you have individuals who came from other countries that were bad, but they bring that here. And I always said, if this country is going to be fallen like Rome, it's going to come from inside. It's going to come from, not going to be missiles. It's going to come from the inside. You look at what America's doing now. You got foreigners in America running for government positions. I couldn't go over to another country and do that. But you have people who come over here. It's funny how they praise their country when they're here, but won't go back to their own country and praise their country because those countries are dictatorships. And that's what individuals are not told. They're not told about economic systems and how they work. They're just told that capitalism. Well, it takes capitalism to fund all the safety nets. Somebody's got to pay for them. It takes knowing how to do calculations and knowing how to design and understanding the safety factor for a bridge to be built. Bottom line is, when it comes to education, you just have a number of people who don't understand the system. Because you got so many people out here who get up on the wrong side of the bed. And one thing I see too in America with the education system, individuals don't grow up. I mean, they could be 40, 50, and 60 and still sound like they're a child. It's like their mind stops growing. Because life either passes them by, they didn't have the right structure at home. I mean, when you spend at least $30 billion a year on educational technology with essentially nothing to show for it, somebody's got to open their eyes and say, we need to do something else. And again, you reap what you sow. See, the unique sense of achievement, that's another thing that's going out the window today. It seems to me that the individuals in this country who are failures get more respect than particularly in the Black community. Heck, you go to jail, they'll break out the champagne for you when you come out of jail. But if you go to college, oh well, doesn't mean anything. You're just a lame, you're just a nerd. But the unique sense of achievement that a student experiences when he or she masters a skill, digs into deep knowledge, or creates a piece of writing or art, or completes a challenging assignment or piece of music, it's all being washed away. And me, I'm just tired of the bad news. And what I want to do is punish or at least ignore the messenger. Because without a proper education, you will end up with your country going from what we had of being developed to a third world country. Mark my words. And another thing about this country, you don't have enough people skilled in business. And many of the individuals here, they're employees. They don't understand about creating businesses. In fact, this country doesn't even want small businesses. They want corporations to run everything. That's a problem. See, big corporations have a lot of influence on buying politicians. You see, if you don't go to school, you're not going to understand where the corruption is in the system, too, because America's had a lot of problems, but you have a lot of people who want to come here. And I give a shout out to the civil rights movement. And if you think about it, you have all these foreigners over here. Everything was built off the civil rights movement. Your women's livers, your same sex, everything. When you hear individuals talk, you hear them closely, they're always going back to civil rights. And even foreigners. And there are a number of foreigners who didn't go through what Black Americans went through during the Jim Crow years. Hey, I didn't, and I'm Black. Now I'm not going to use the term foundational Black American. I'm just Black. Because when you go to Africa, got problems there. But in the long run, when it comes to education, education is more than just going to school, looking at a book, and memorizing tests. Now, the way I would give a test is get yourself a book. And this is where people don't understand thinking. I like to test someone on a project. I said, I'll give you an example. I'm going to use civil engineering and mechanical engineering. If I want to find out about installing lighting, where would I go to find it? Or setting up a refrigerator, where would I go? Use the codes. I would go look in the codes. And see, school teaches you how to memorize everything through a textbook, but they don't teach you how to look everything up. School teaches you how to go and work for somebody else, but it doesn't teach you to have your own. That's a failure of the school system. And when you have a lackluster school system, you're going to see the products of failing school systems because they're going to run for government. Some of them might end up teaching themselves at schools. You're also going to see a number of these failures on television. And from my opinion, I'm just going to say this. School isn't there to teach you. School's there to indoctrinate you. And when it's all said and done, Like the United Negro College Fund has always said, it's your future, it's your choice. Go a long way when you know how systems work. You only go so far. The extortion and the business models that are pretty old from the colleges, which are teaching the Communist Manifesto, in your high school, teaching wokeism. Because you have the left here, they want to get to the kids because they don't know anything. But if you stand strong, educate yourself, it'll be easy for you to navigate through what's going on out here. Because you have a number of people who have opinions. They don't read. They don't care either. They're grifters. Because in the end, there are a number of people who think they have power because they have an opinion. Not everybody wants to hear your opinion, especially if it's not researched well or properly explained, or you sound stupid. But I will say this again about education. Mine is a terrible thing to waste. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you're looking for some STEM content, check out the QCIS channel. On that channel, you get a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, here's where you can find me. A 401 Talk Zone radio show, that's my main channel. If you want some politics and some social topics, come right here. Got my Wednesday slot back. Well, not only am I on YouTube for the 401 Talk Zone radio show, you can also find me on Rumble, find me on X, formerly Twitter, and you can also find me on True Social. And for the QCIS channel, you can find me right here on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, and LinkedIn. Once again, I want to tell you all this. Always be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And I'm just going to say this. It doesn't apply, just let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, then change it. And once again, thank you for listening, viewing this content. 401 Talk Zone radio show right here, YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful, gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.